What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing another video. Today I'm bringing you a video on Power Rangers Dino Supercharged episode 17, finally. Really happy about this episode, obviously, since now we're just right before the finale. So, next 3 episodes will be the 3-part finale, which should be pretty awesome. But, this was a decent episode. Definitely advances the story, has some filler elements to it, but it's good. The episode's called Worgworld. You may think to yourself, Worg? Who's Worg? Well, you'll find out as I start this episode pretty quickly. So what happens is the episode starts with Snide ending up like trying to go into the jail cell areas or whatever and trying to deal with something, and then suddenly Poisandra approaches Snide and says, I thought you said we had a deal. If I let you free, then you would tell me that big secret. So he ends up telling her that secret. And she's like, oh, okay, well, let's go. And so, okay, so I'll go now. And so she ends up running off at that point. In the meantime, what happens is that the alarm goes off. And the alarm goes off because Heckle had escaped. And the soldiers that were sent to guard him couldn't fight him. So what happens is that they get destroyed by Snide pretty quickly. At that point, they're like Ren says, "So do you want me to go after Heckle?" And then he's like, "No, he won't be able to stop our attacks. He won't be able to warn the Rangers or anything. So let's let him go." So what happens at that point, he ends up approaching. He ends up saying that they won't be able to stop our plan, and I believe it's Wrench that says, like, what's the plan? The plan is to use music on the Rangers. So at that point, what happens is that they end up going to the museum, and you end up seeing that there's a attraction for Worg. Worg is a robotic caveman, and he's a pretty impressive one because of all the things he's able to actually do, because he's not your standard model by any means, and he's voice activated, so it's a pretty big deal. And he resembles in a lot of ways Coda as far as physicality and hair, so it's, they obviously try to model it after him, but he says Worg a lot, Worg do this, Worg do that. So what happens is that Worg is supposed to act like a regular caveman. He's boring, no one cares about him except for Coda. And Kendall feels this way big time. But like the others are trying to be fair to Coda and his feelings. Thing is that eventually they say, Kendall says, okay, Worg, let's change it up. Worg attack mode. So then what happens is that suddenly he ends up grabbing a spear and he ends up pretending to throw a spear, but then suddenly he ends up throwing a spear and skewering a woman's hat. Doesn't skewer her, but skewers her hat. At that point, they're kind of freaked out, so they end up deactivating. They end up stopping him, and then putting him back into the normal mode. Actually, I might have skipped a sequence, which was the part about how there's like these two people that want to take a picture with Worg, and Worg ends up stealing this older gentleman's toupee, and they end up running away at that point because like Riley was supposed to take a picture or whatever. So then what happens is that they then end up, like, Kendall tells Coda to put Worg in storage because of this. But then what happens is that Coda's like, alright, and then he actually thinks that, like, maybe I could do something better. So what he ends up doing is he actually puts him in Coda's outfit and everything and tries to make him cook. And he's doing pretty darn well, actually. He's not a failure at cooking. So what happens is that he's cooking, everything's going well, everything's fine, and the thing is that Coda, by accident, Chase makes him say, attack? Like attack, and the thing is that Worg suddenly goes into his attack mode, starts throwing tomatoes out into the Dino Cafe. At that point, it's a food fight, and Kendall even gets hit with a tomato, and she's like, put him in storage. So then, at that point, it's like, okay, I think I've done my best with this situation, so things aren't going well. And so then what happens is that they end up seeing, two trumpet players come towards the building outside, because they ended up seeing that the sign, I was like, the Rangers go outside to see the sign, and the sign's all broken for some reason, even he's broken, so that all happens. So then they see these two trumpet players that start playing their instruments, and the thing is that if you hear their instruments, you become a zombie. So what happens is that these two trumpet players start playing, and the main one's called Conductorum, and so what happens is that they're playing, and what happens, and like Riley ends up covering his ears and temporarily isn't affected. Shelby and Tyler get affected pretty quickly. Eventually, Chase comes into contact, and he gets affected because he ends up removing his headphones at one point. But Coda comes out, and he has Worg's headphones, which have the same frequency waves as the trumpet sound, so it basically protects him pretty well. And Ivan gets affected, and so then what happens is that they're like, okay, this is not working, so they end up having to cover their ears and bring them to safety, and they realize that that they have to develop headphones that resemble the Worg headphones for all of them. So they end up doing that, even ones for Xeon Wing and Ivan. So that's a thing. I'm just trying to think here what else is going on. Orkan. So then what happens is that they eventually end up morphing and finding some Vivixes with the headsets that go into their helmets actually. They then use the Dino Spike, but Conductorom has the ability to actually conduct the attack, so he's able to actually cause the attack to stop, which is obviously good for him. Eventually what happens is that Xeon Wing shows up to destroy the record player, which is what they actually use to amplify the sound waves, because they end up doing that to actually affect the entire Amber Beach area. No, Amber Bay area. What am I saying? Amber Bay, not Amber Beach. So then what happens is that after that, they're happy, and suddenly they retreat. The trumpet players retreat, but then we suddenly see Arcanon, who appears with the dark energy and uses it and gains horns and becomes very grotesque and zombie-esque, monstrous, kind of creepy. And then suddenly he decides to grow large after Ivan joins in the battle, and then they use a T-Rex supercharge and the Prism Slash, a couple other awesome things. But Arcanon gets big, like he gets huge. They have to use the Ultra Sword to go up against Arcanon. Coda gets to use the Super Drive Sword or whatever this time, which is nice. And what happens is that they end up attacking with the chest cannons from the Ultra Sword, which ends up allowing them to destroy Arcanon. The Rangers think they win, well, they at least win the battle. Then what happens is that Arcanon's trying to find the Dark Energy. He sees it, he's trying to go for the book. Suddenly, at that point, we end up having the big reveal, which everyone's been expecting to have happen sooner or later. Sledge picks up the book. Yeah, Sledge is back. Many people have seen the internet message online. He's back. Where has he been? They didn't really explain where he's been. Supposedly maybe in the shadows, maybe undercover. It's very unclear exactly as to where he's been. The thing is that most likely episode 18 will probably reveal that information. The point is, he's back. And that is most likely obviously the secret that Poisandra found out from Snide, that yeah, he's back. And the reason why we know that would be the secret, well, we'll get to that right now. So what happens is Arcanon tells Sledge, well, I hate to tell you, but it's 4 against 1. So suddenly you have Arcanon with Singe and the 2 trumpet players, but then suddenly Sledge is like, oh, I got the old game back together. So suddenly he has Fury, Wrench, Curio, Poisandra, and Snide. Snide has been a double agent this whole entire time. He's always worked for Sledge, but now with Heckle not being there inside of his body, he had nothing holding him back. So that allowed him to really work alongside Sledge, since Heckle wasn't holding him back. Heckle does see all this occur, and also Arcanon gets destroyed at that moment. It pretty much that's what it's assumed to be, because even though they don't really show any remains of him, it's assumed that he's like destroyed and Sledge is taking over again. So anyway, what happens is that at that point, you end up seeing them back in the base, and not back in the base, back in the cafe. They're trying to see what's happened to Worg, and Worg has joined Coda in performing caveman fitness classes, which apparently become very popular. Good use for him. Overall, a good episode. Obviously very important now with Sledge showing up. Obviously Heckle's seeing this, so clearly there will most likely be a battle between the two of them. Also, Heckle seems to be coming to that point where it's more than likely that eventually Heckle will join the Rangers in some way, since obviously he doesn't want to support the villains, and also since he's learned about his past and learned about that he wasn't meant to be evil, that he was turned that way, he was manipulated. So it's very clear that things will be very interesting in these last 3 episodes that will come very soon. Then after that, we'll have a hiatus for like 2 months approximately, not including the Christmas special, and after that we will get back to Ninja Steel. But overall, I'm really happy to know that we've gotten to the last episode before the 3-part finale, which is great. I'd love to know your guys' opinions in the comments below. What did you guys think of this episode? Was it a good episode? Do you like Worg? What are your thoughts about Sledge returning? Do you think that this is interesting? How do you think that this will progress? Do you think that for those that don't know, do you think that maybe Heckle will become a good guy in the end that really works in line with the Rangers in some way? Not spoiling it for anyone that doesn't know the true ending. That's just what I wanted to say. I do know what happens in the end, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone that doesn't know what happens as far as Heckle. So please leave your comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Sarah, everyone, and goodbye, guys.